Welcome to my channel. Thanks so much for watching. In today's tutorial, I'm going to show you how to knit this beautiful baby blanket. Now, the stitch that I used to make this blanket with is the double moss stitch pattern. It's a reversible stitch, very easy to make. I'd say that it's beginner friendly, so I hope you like it. I'm also going to show you how to make the border. The border is crochet, so it's optional. Now, if you prefer written pattern, check out my Etsy shop. I'll leave the link to my Etsy shop up here on the right hand side and in the information box below. Thank you so much for your support. Now, to make this baby blanket, this is the yarn that I used. This is Aran weight yarn. You can also use any yarn weight with any needle size. The important thing is the stitch multiple, which I provide at the beginning of the tutorial. Now, the finished measurement for my baby blanket is about 35 inches by 35 inches. You can easily adjust it and make it smaller or bigger using the stitch multiple, which again, I will provide at the beginning of the tutorial. I used about 375 grams in the main color and about 80 grams for the border. You will need less or more depending on the size that you make. Okay, so now let's get started. Don't forget to subscribe, activate the notifications bell, and remember, all of my tutorials are always in English and in Spanish. Okay, to begin, I'll be using these circular knitting needles. These are US size 8 or 5mm circular knitting needles. Mine are 32-inch long. You can certainly use longer knitting needles, and you can also knit this baby blanket using straight needles. But I recommend that you use circular needles because of the number of stitches that we're going to cast on. It's a lot, so it's going to be more comfortable if you use circular needles, but that would be up to you. Now, the yarn that I'm using, it's Aran weight yarn. You can also use number 4 yarn or 10 ply. At the beginning of the video, I showed you the yarn that I'm using and I told you how much yarn we're going to need for the size that we're making. And actually, you can use any yarn weight with any needle size. The important thing is the stitch multiple to the pattern that I'm going to use to make this baby blanket, which is the double moss stitch pattern. So here, to begin, the first thing that we need to do is we need to cast on our stitches. I'm going to show you how to cast on your stitches using the long tail cast on method. Now, we're going to cast on a total of 145 stitches. For the double moss stitch pattern, you need multiples of 3 plus 4, the 4 extra stitches or border stitches. So here, to begin, what I like to do is I like to measure my yarn for my long tail. So what I like to do is I like to use both needles, and I'm going to wrap the yarn around 20 times. That's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Now, I have enough yarn here for about 20 stitches. We're going to cast on 145. So what I like to do is I like to measure this yarn like this. So here I have enough yarn for about 40 stitches. Now double it up again. I have enough for about 60. Double it up again. I have enough for 80. Double it up again. I have enough for about 100 stitches. Double it up again. I have enough for about 120. Double it up again. I have enough for about 140. We need 145, so I'm just going to double it up again. It's best to have some left over than to have to do this again. So here I have enough yarn for 145 stitches. For this small sample, I'm only going to cast on a total of 25 stitches. So 25 minus 4, that's 21. 21 is divisible by 3. This is just a small sample that I'm going to show you. I'm not going to cast on the whole 145 stitches. It's the same thing, the beginning and the end and the middle stitches. That's the important thing. So here I'm going to make a slip knot, and we're going to start. So I'm going to put both needles here into this loop. Now this yarn here is coming from the skein, and this is coming from the yarn that we measured. Now to cast on your stitches, you're going to go from left to right. So open up the yarn like this and go from left to right and grab a loop. That's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25. Like I said, I'm only going to cast on 25 stitches. You're going to continue until you have 145 stitches. So once you have 145 stitches, I'm just going to cut my yarn here, and I'm going to just tie a knot here at the end. Again, this is just a small sample that I'm going to show you the stitch pattern with. So go ahead and just tie a knot once you have your 145 stitches. So now carefully remove one of the needles. So here you should have 145 stitches. Again, for my small sample, I only have 25 stitches. So here, to begin, I'm going to knit this first stitch, but only for this first row. And then I'm going to knit the next stitch. Now place a stitch marker. These two stitches here are border stitches. Now we're going to begin. I'm going to begin with a knit one and then a purl one. Knit one, purl one. And I'm going to do this up to the last two stitches. So knit one, purl one. Knit one, purl one. There, I have the last two stitches. This stitch before the last two is a knit stitch. So now place a stitch marker here. These last two stitches are border stitches as well. So here we're going to slip this next stitch purlwise and now knit the last stitch. And that's how you're going to end each row. We have 145 stitches for the first row, and we're always going to have that number of stitches. Now turn, and here to begin each row, this is going to be on the wrong side. You can place a stitch marker here to mark the right side, but I'm okay here. So now slip the first stitch, and then you're going to knit the second stitch. That's how you're going to begin each row. Pass the stitch marker, and here we're going to work these stitches exactly how you see them. This stitch here is a purl stitch, then a knit, purl, knit. So we're going to start the pattern with a purl one, then a knit one, purl one, knit one, purl one, knit one. Now you're going to continue like this up to the last two stitches. There, my last stitch is a purl stitch. Now pass the stitch marker, and here at the end, remember we slip purlwise the next stitch and then knit one. Now this is going to create a nice border, so make sure that you do the same every time you end a row. Now turn for row 3. Now this pattern consists of 4 rows. I already did row 1 and 2. So now for row 3, you're going to slip the first stitch and then knit the second stitch. Pass the stitch marker, and now we're going to switch the stitches around. For row 1, I started with a knit 1. So for row 3 now, I'm going to begin with purl 1, knit 1, purl 1, knit 1 up to the last 2 stitches. There, my last stitch before the stitch marker is a purl. Now pass the stitch marker and bring the yarn here to the front and slip the next stitch purlwise and knit the last stitch. And this is how I finished the 3rd row. Now turn for row 4, Row 4 is on the wrong side. Slip the first stitch, knit the second stitch, pass the stitch marker, and here same thing, we're going to work the stitches exactly how they are. This stitch here is a knit stitch, so knit 1. The next one is a purl, so purl 1, knit 1, purl 1, knit 1, purl 1, and so on up to the last 2 stitches. My last stitch is a knit stitch, pass a stitch marker, slip the next stitch purlwise, and knit the last stitch. And here's the 4th row. So now these 4 rows will make up the pattern, which is the double moss stitch. So I'm going to show you once again what you need to do for the 4 rows here. So this would be row 1 again, so we're going to slip the next stitch, knit the second stitch, pass the stitch marker, and here I'm going to knit 1, purl 1. See how we're changing the pattern again? Knit 1, purl 1 up to the last 2 stitches. There, this stitch here is a knit stitch, pass the stitch marker, slip the next stitch purlwise, knit the last stitch. Turn for row 2, slip the first stitch, knit the second stitch. Pass the stitch marker. Now here, look at the next stitch. This is a purled stitch, so you're going to purl. 1, knit 1, purl 1, knit 1, up to the last 2 stitches. There, that's a purl stitch, pass the stitch marker, slip the next stitch purlwise, and knit the last stitch. And here's row 2. Now turn for row 3, slip the first stitch, knit the second stitch, pass the stitch marker. Now in this 3rd row, we're going to change the pattern, so I'm going to start with a purl 1 instead, then a knit 1, purl 1, knit 1, and so on up to the last 2 stitches. Here's the last stitch before the stitch marker. That's a purl stitch, pass the stitch marker, slip the next stitch purlwise, and knit the last stitch. Turn for row 4, slip the first stitch always, and knit the second stitch always. Here at the beginning of the row, pass the stitch marker, and then look at your stitch. This is a knit stitch, so you're going to knit, then purl, knit, purl, knit up to the last 2 stitches. Here's the last stitch before the stitch marker. That's a knit stitch, pass the stitch marker, slip the next stitch purlwise, knit the last stitch. And we're done with the pattern here. We have done 2 repeats. Each repeat consists of 4 rows. Now you're going to continue like this and repeat the last 4 rows over and over. I'm not sure how many rows I'm going to do for my baby blanket, but continue watching. I will let you know how many rows I'm going to do. So continue like this, repeating these 4 rows, and then I'll come back and show you what we need to do next. Okay, I'm done with this part of the baby blanket. I have done a total of 104 rows. Now, the rows that I'm counting are right here along the very edge. I have a total of 104 rows. So these stitches here that we were slipping as we began each row, those are the rows that I'm counting. It's hard to count each individual row here, but as long as you have 104, that's fine. This here, it's measuring about 35 inches long by 35 inches wide, which is about 89 centimeters. So if you want to make this wider or longer, you can add more rows, you can take away more rows, you can adjust the size of your baby blanket to your liking. I like the size that I have right now, so I'm going to stop, and in the next row I'm going to go ahead and cast off my stitches. So here I'm going to show you how we're going to cast off the stitches, and then I'm going to show you how to add a border. So here, slip the first stitch, now knit the next stitch, bring this first stitch over the second, now purl the next stitch, bring this first stitch over, knit the next stitch, bring this stitch over, purl the next stitch, bring this next stitch over, knit the next, bring this stitch over, purl the next, bring this stitch over, and so on until you have cast off all of your stitches. So go ahead, finish this part, and then I'll come back and show you how we're going to add a border. I finished casting off my stitches. Now here at the end, I just cut my yarn and passed my yarn through this last loop, and this part here is done. The baby blanket is all done. Now this is how it looks. Look how beautiful this stitch pattern is. I absolutely love this double moss stitch pattern. Now here on top of the last stitch that I cast off, I place a stitch marker. This here is going to be one of the corners. Actually, this is going to be the fourth corner, since we're going to now make a very easy border, and I am going to use a 5mm hook to do this. If you want to leave your baby blanket like this as it is, it's fine. All of the sides have this beautiful edging, well, on both sides, and then for the top and bottom you also have this really nice finish, so you can leave the baby blanket as it is. If you don't know how to do crochet, then just go ahead and leave the baby blanket like this as it is. It's measuring about 35 inches long by 35 inches wide, and I have used a total of 375 grams to make this baby blanket in this size, using the size needles that I mentioned at the beginning. So here, if you want to do this border, this is where we're going to begin. We're going to start right here along the very edge. This is where I cast off my last stitch, passed my yarn through that last loop, and right below that there's that first stitch, and I'm going to be going through each one of these stitches along the very edge. These stitches are the ones where we slipped as we began each row, so that's where I'll be inserting my hook. I'll be also using this white yarn in the same weight. So now bring a loop through, and I think I mentioned I'm using a 5mm hook. If you're using a different yarn weight or a different needle size, then just go ahead and use the same size hook as you did for the baby blanket and the same weight yarn. And all you do here is I grabbed a loop, chained one, and right into this very first stitch here, make a single crochet. Make a single crochet into the next stitch, single crochet into the next, and so on. This is how I'm going to work this side. I'm just going to make one single crochet here for each one of these stitches that are along the very edge until I come here to this first corner. I will meet you right here. This is the last stitch. I'm going to make this into the first corner, so I will meet you right here to show you how we're going to work the corners here for this baby blanket. I finished making these single crochets along this first side. I have a total of 106. If you have one or two stitches less or more, it's okay. Now into this next stitch, I'm going to make this into the first corner. So right here, I'm going to insert my hook, and I'm going to make 3 single crochets. There. Now for the bottom part of the baby blanket, what I'm going to do is for each one of these stitches, I'm going to make a single crochet. So starting right here, I'm going to make a single crochet. The next stitch here is a knit stitch. So right in the center, insert your hook and make a single crochet. The next stitch is a purl stitch. Insert your hook in the center and make a single crochet. The next stitch is a knit stitch. Right in the center, insert your hook and make a single crochet. The next stitch is a purl stitch, and right in the center, insert your hook and make a single crochet, and so on. This is how I'm going to work the bottom part of the baby blanket. So continue. I will meet you here at this other end. This is going to be the second corner. I'm going to show you again how to work the corners, since you're going to continue on your own and finish the rest of this first row for the border. I finished making these single crochets along the bottom part of the baby blanket. I have a total of 142 stitches up to this last stitch. Now I have this stitch here, you can see it right on top. Here I'm going to make the second corner, and same thing, all we do is just make 3 single crochets here. Now continue for this side here. Along this side, you're going to make sure to have the same number of stitches as we did here for this first side. So each one of the sides is going to have the same number of stitches. Whatever number of stitches you had, just make sure you do the same thing for this side. For me, I had 106 stitches, so I'm going to make sure to make 106 stitches along this side. And once I get here to the top, this is going to be the third corner, and then I'm going to continue along the top. For the top, I'm going to make sure to have 142 stitches, because the top and bottom needs to have the same number of stitches. For me, I have 142. So top and bottom, 142 stitches. Each one of the sides, 106, and on each corner, 3 stitches. So continue along here, just making single crochets along the very edge here for this other side, making sure to make 106 single crochets until you come to the top, where you're going to make the third corner, and then continue along the top where you're going to make 142 single crochets. So continue, finish this first row for this border. I will meet you here at the end of this row to show you what we need to do next. I'm here at the end of this first row. Here's my fourth corner. In this fourth corner, this is where I had the stitch marker. I did 3 single crochets. Now to finish, go on top here with the first single crochet and join with a slip stitch. And this is how I finish this first row. At the end of this first row, you should have a total of 508 single crochets. Now for the top and bottom, I have 142 stitches. For each one of the sides, I have 106 stitches. If you have 1 or 2 stitches less or more, it's okay. As I explained, there is no stitch multiple for this border. You can have less or more stitches. The important thing is that for each side you have the same number of stitches, and for top and bottom you have the same number of stitches. Now we're going to continue here. I'm not going to make a row where I can weave a ribbon here. I'm just going to keep this nice and simple. It's just a beautiful simple baby blanket pattern with a border that's nice and simple to make. But if you want to continue and make a row of double crochets all around, so that way you can weave a ribbon after it's done, you can do that. You can just continue and work 1 row of double crochets all around. When you come to the corners in the center stitch, which is this here, just make 3 double crochets, and then that'll help you turn and then continue with the next side. That's an option if you want to go ahead and do that, and then just go ahead and start your border just like I'm going to do next here. Now to start the border here, this is going to be a wave pattern. You will see soon what I mean. You're going to chain 1, and beginning into this first stitch, which is the same one that you joined into, make a single crochet. Make a single crochet into the next, single crochet into the next, and a single crochet into the next. Here I have 4 single crochets. Now chain 3, turn here like this to the back side, and go on top of the first single crochet here and make a slip stitch. Now chain 1 and turn again to the right side. In this chain 3 space, I'm going to make 6 double crochets. So yarn over, insert your hook, and that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now into the next 4 single crochets, 1, 2, 3, 4, make a single crochet. Here's 1, 2, 3, 4. Chain 3, turn to the wrong side, and here you're going to go back to the chain 3 space of the previous wave right here and make a slip stitch. Chain 1, turn to the right side, and right into this chain 3 make 6 double crochets. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Here's the second wave. Now again into the next 4 single crochets, make a single crochet. That's 1, 2, 3, 4. Chain 3, turn to the wrong side, go into the chain 3 of the previous wave and make a slip stitch. Chain 1 and turn, and into the chain 3 space make 6 double crochets. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Again into the next 4 single crochets, 1, 2, 3, 4, make a single crochet. 1, 2, 3, 4. Chain 3. Here, if you want to chain 4 instead of 3, you can. I am making these chains nice and loose, so that's why I'm only going to chain 3, but you can chain 4. Now go into the previous wave, and in the chain 3 space here right at the very end, make a slip stitch. Chain 1, turn back to the front here, and now make 6 double crochets. And this is how we're going to continue all around. That's 4, 5, 6, and then again into the next 4 single crochets, make a single crochet. Now you can say that the stitch multiple for this border is multiples of 4, but you can easily adjust it. So this is how it looks. That's the wave border. Here, as you can see, I have chained 3, and for me it looks fine. If you want to chain 4, that's perfectly fine too. In my tutorial, I already have a tutorial for this border. I think I chained 4, and I did double crochets instead of single crochets. You can do either or. It's just going to be a little taller if you do double crochets. So that's how I'm going to continue until I come here to the corner, and there's nothing special to work here the corner, so I'm going to meet you right here to show you how we're going to just continue and work our way around. So I will meet you right here to show you how we're going to work the corners here for this second row. Okay, I finished making these waves along this first side. Up to here I have 26 waves. Now here's the corner. There's nothing special. All you do is just continue and make 4 single crochets after your last wave. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4. Chain 3, turn, go into the previous 3 chains and make a slip stitch. Chain 1, turn, and in the chain 3 space make 6 double crochets. Now there's nothing special here for the corners. You just continue with the same sequence. Let's see, we have 2, 4, 5, 6. Now into the next 4, make 1 single crochet. 1, 2, 3, 4 single crochets. Chain 3, turn, go into the previous 3 chains and join with a slip stitch. Chain 1, turn, and then 6 double crochets. And this is how we're just going to continue all around, just making these beautiful waves all around the border. And here's the corner. That's how it looks. So continue all around and I'll meet you at the end of this second row. I finished making the border. Here's the last wave that I did. Now here to finish, all I did was go here to the front. We have the 4 single crochets here at the beginning, and into the 3rd single crochet, I just joined with a slip stitch, cut my yarn, and passed my yarn through that last loop. So this part here is done. So the baby blanket is all done. I absolutely love this stitch pattern. It's so easy and it's absolutely reversible. So I hope you like it as well. Make sure to comment below and let me know if you want me to show you how to make a matching little sweater with this stitch pattern. I'll gladly go ahead and do that, but make sure to comment. Now the finished measurement for my baby blanket, as I mentioned before, is 35 inches long by 35 inches wide. The border here is only about 1 inch wide, and I used a total of 375 grams in blue and about 80 grams in white. Okay, so this was today's tutorial. I hope you like it. Thank you so much for watching. Until next time.